What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Riff. We can call this episode 4, 2 in 1 week. Lucky you. Check this out. Went to fire up the Strat today with the custom by Cougar signature head. That's a noise most guitar players don't want to hear. It's a microphonic tube. The 12AX7 has become super microphonic. It can pick up a lot of chassis noise. It can pick up reverb, make the reverb hum and squeal. So check this. I'm gonna go through it and I'm gonna try a bunch of different tubes in there and see which one I can get to quiet it down. Now this tube makes noise in this amp, but we can't condemn the actual tube because there are many things you can do. Hey, this tube may go in another amp right next to it and sound just fine. It may not be microphonic at all. These change with every amp. Not only that, sometimes you can get away with just cleaning the pins. But for this episode, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to swap in a tube, and I'm going to talk about tube changes. Tubes are one of the most important things to shape your tone and your definitely your preamp sound. Most amps, tube amps, you'll find a 12AX7, 12AT7, 12AY, 12AU for some of the tweed amps. These are also labeled as ECC 83s, 5751s, 7025s. There's a number of different versions that will go into the amp. But I have I'm a bit of a vintage geek, and I love old tubes. So we're gonna find something that's pretty comparable right now. That was a Sylvania 12AX7 that came out, and I happen to have an older Sylvania 12AX7 here. That's a black plate, super nice. You can see that. And we'll try this one. We'll swap this one in. And I'll get to talking about tubes in a second. They only go in one way. Don't force them. Quiet. Just check it with the guitar and make sure everything's all set. There it is. Nice, I like what that one does. Still keeps the channel clean with a little bit of hair on it if I want to dig in. You know, so that's good. So anyways, now that that's fixed, I can get on to talking about how important these are, these preamp tubes. Preamp, they shape the preamp of your sound, right? So if you want a little cleaner sound and you got a little warmer tube in there, a high gain tube, you would want to take that out and you would want to put like a lower gain, like a 12AT7. In amps, we'll have 12AX, 12AT, 12AY, 12AU. And those are basically all different stages of the same tube. They have a gain rating, you know, and gain is exactly, you know, the flash point of the tube technically, or when the tube starts to dissipate. You'll see them labeled as ECC 83s or 7025s, 5751s, and a lot of you may have heard these numbers. For the sound that I go for, I prefer a mixture. I like to keep the phase inverter clean and the channel that I'm plugging into clean. So I rely a lot on my right hand. I don't use AX7s for my dirt. I just use my playing to get sustain, get overdriven tones, and dig in harder if I want it to express itself more. I did put an AX7 in this because I'm playing in smaller places, and I'd like to have a little more gain on tap instead of blowing people's eardrums out. So these are super important in shaping your preamp sound, and a lot of people overlook this as, well, that's what it came with. But I always said that a really well-working, well-wired amp with good components will respond well to tube changes. And I've experimented with tubes, and I have dozens and dozens of new old stock tubes. New old stock You know, you'll see it listed as NOS, but basically they just mean the old ones. You know, and those are the ones that really have the magic. You know, and some are a little funky. You may have one that's microphonic, but it just sounds amazing in the amp, and a lot of guys believe it. You know, power tubes here are a different story. They're the bigger ones. I basically look for a power tube that's going to manage my power, keep it stable, and not sag on me when I'm hitting it hard. Sag meaning, you know, dissipate power faster. And I like a good tight bass, you know, so it stores that power really nice. And these are a set of old GE 6550s that have been holding up pretty well, and I love them so much that I have a fleet of them. These are old, but I don't mess around when it comes to power tubes. I think they, you know, you can't skimp out when it comes to your tone. So like I said, if you got, you know, a deluxe or a Marshall or a Princeton or a Super Reverb, don't be afraid to spend the $20 or the $25 on eBay, as long as you found a tube that's tested high and strong, and just experiment. You know what I mean? Try them in different spots. See, get an idea for what a 12AX7 does where a 12AT7 was, or vice versa. You know what I mean? You may have a 12AT7 in your phase inverter, or the V6, or the last preamp tube of a Fender amp, and you try a 12AX7 in there, and you say, wow, it's got so much breakup now, so much overdriven tone, almost like a tweed. You know, there are many options to experiment with. If you want it a little cleaner, and you're running the 12AX, you could put a 12AT7, or I like a 5751 GE 5-star. They're old ones, but if you look that up, GE 5-star 5751, those seem to be my favorite as far as 5751s. There's a Raytheon 5751 is a really great tube too, but those are expensive because they're that good. So this is just a quick video to show you more tips on how to get the most out of your amp that you're using. This is my custom by Cougar signature model here. It's 75 watts. It's named after my goddaughter, Viola. And yeah, it's pretty tight. I worked with Tommy putting this together. Philip Sace runs them, and you know, he gets great tone out of them. So I worked with Tommy to get a really magical amp here, and he did a great job. You know, I like the reverb, a little splashy. Great sounding amp. I'm happy to have it outfitted with some old tubes. Yeah, so I figured I'd give you a second video for the week. I appreciate it. If you dig what you see, like and subscribe. Leave some comments and suggestions below. I'm always willing to take your suggestions and maybe do a future video on them. So I'm going to go back to playing. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Yo, episode 4. 2 uploads this week. 2 uploads in 1 week. That's cray.